Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Sustainable Jersey's 2021 Sustainability Summit presentation on Show Me the Data. I'm Zenon Tech-Czarny, Research Project Specialist at Sustainable Jersey, and I'm happy to welcome you here today. After our presentation, there'll be plenty of time for Q&A, but before we begin, I have a few housekeeping requests. As an attendee, you are muted, but if you have any questions, please enter them in the questions or chat box or raise your hand. We will do our best to answer the questions before the end of the session today. Also, please be sure to enter your audio pin if you're using a telephone call an option. Otherwise, we can unmute you. This event is being recorded. All recordings and presentations will be posted on our website by May 28th. Also, we have the closed caption option on. If you'd like to turn it off, you can just click on the button on the right of your little Zoom bar and turn off the closed captioning there. So some announcements. I have a few announcements to share, all of which you can find more details on our website. First, the municipal certification application deadline is June 6th, so get your submissions in. Please note that a number of new actions will be added to the municipal certification program in July for the launch of the Gold Star in Health. Details will be announced soon. Thanks. Number two, thanks to the support of New Jersey American Water, we are offering free technical assistance for one community interested in developing a municipal water story, which is foundational and required action for water Gold Star. More information about this opportunity and if your municipality is eligible can be found on the Sustainable Jersey grants page. And three, Sustainable Jersey will be administering $75,000 of grants to fund municipal resiliency and environmental stewardship projects across the Atlantic City service area through ACE's Sustainable Communities Grant Program. For more information, visit Sustainable Jersey's grant page. All right. So today's speaker is me, Zenon, and
Zenon,
I guess, yes, can you?
Are you trying to share a screen right now? Because we don't see it.
Oh,
yet.
I am so sorry. Thanks for jumping in. Of course, I would forget that. So,
all right, you're all good.
Thank you very much. So that's the title page, and this is the announcements which I made, and this is my picture. So, hi everyone. And so today I'm going to talk about data, and these are some of the things I'll be talking about. So I'm going to start with an introduction, an overview of the data center. Then I'll go into a little bit about understanding energy through maps. We have some great interactive maps on our data center. And I'll also talk about some key Sustainable Jersey energy actions and relevant data for completing those actions. I'll also be talking about some exciting progress in terms of our utility energy usage data, other heating fuels, transportation, and greenhouse gas emissions data. And finally, if we have some time, I'll talk a little bit about some other climate and sustainability related maps and data. All right, to start, I'm going to talk a little bit about the data center. So we just launched this data center in January, and we have some select data in that data center. We've kind of grouped that data into two different categories. So first is data that Sustainable Jersey has essentially processed. So it's data that we've taken from various sources and we've processed, and we sort of are managing. And then the other section is New Jersey state data resources. So these are data resources from New Jersey's Clean Energy Program and the DEP and other places. So I'm actually going to do a little quick walkthrough, and let's see if this works. Hopefully don't have too many technical issues today. So if you click on the view resources link here, it'll take you to our Sustainable Jersey data resources. And just a quick note on how to navigate both sections. we have a kind of an outline here, table of contents, but we also have a table of contents here. So you can click and it will take you down to the various resources. And today I'll primarily be talking about sustainable Jersey related resources, but maybe if I have a chance, I'll kind of get into some of the state resources. So you can have a gander. The two main sections within the sustainable Jersey data is municipal data, which is primarily in tabular form, and the interactive maps, which are primarily hosted or entirely hosted by ArcGIS Online. And we use a number of resources that are publicly available to create these maps. So these are maps that we've created with other data. On the state side, similar navigation system, but we have data from New Jersey's Clean Energy Program, such as the direct install participants, which they actually publish, I believe, monthly or maybe quarterly, can't remember, but very regularly. And you can see which businesses have done direct install projects and or entities that are eligible for direct install. So that's a good resource, and we actually have data that's similar to this, using kind of the same source data. The Clean Energy Program also provides solar reports, activity reports, and so you can actually see all the solar installations. And for private installations, the information is kind of anonymized, but for public installations, you can have a little bit more detail, and that's super useful to kind of understand, how much work has been done in your municipality. The DEP also has a lot of great resources, such as the solar siting analysis tool, as a community solar PV siting tool, public electric vehicle charging stations, electric vehicle infrastructure strategic map, data miner, which is kind of a classic resource through the DEP, and GeoWeb, which has also kind of been around for a while, and they've been updating it. A lot of great data from a variety of different topics. Same with the Open Data Platform. So they have a data platform which provides all types of environmental data. And then there's NJGIN, which provides data about geographic GIS data all about the state, and NJMAP, which is based out of Rowan. So with that said, that's kind of a summary. I'm not going to go into all these in detail, and hopefully I can share or go back to presentation mode. Yeah. So I wanted to start with talking about understanding energy through maps. So energy is, as many of you know, one of the main sustainability issues in today, and it has a direct relation to the climate crisis. And so we have a major focus on energy. Actually, one of things I focus on primarily is energy, and my team. So one of the things I created when I first started was this interactive map that helps explain the energy system. And actually, I'm not going to go into it in detail, but kind of explain it briefly. But essentially, you can see through these big dots where power production is done. You can see the major power plants, the cogen and Linden. The yellow are transmission lines. The gray are pipelines. The dots are substations, and the little gas logos are gas compressor stations. And so, with this data, you can actually start to understand where your energy comes from, because energy oftentimes is this thing that kind of just shows up in your wall, but having this map sort of helps explain where all of it comes from. Similarly, we in New Jersey have, and around the country, have utility territories and utilities. And so one of the other maps that is linked in our data center, which we created, and it's a fairly simple map, is the utility territory map, and it's a pretty useful thing to have. Most people know their utility, but a lot of people don't, and some municipalities have actually multiple utilities. And being able to kind of look on a map helps you understand that a little bit better. So this map, has the county boundaries, and hopefully it will load. It looks like it's loading slowly, but it also has the municipal boundaries and the names. So you can see, for instance, West Windsor has multiple utilities. There's other municipalities throughout New Jersey that have multiple electric utilities, and if you wanted to switch to natural gas, you can easily just swap it out. And so a lot of these boundaries aren't always the same, and being able to have that easily accessible is super useful. So that's a little bit about the understanding energy through mapping. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our key energy actions and using data to help complete them and understand them better. So the 4 actions I'm going to be talking about very briefly today is the energy tracking management action, the energy efficiency for municipal facilities action, commercial energy efficiency outreach, and residential energy efficiency outreach. And so these are part of our kind of suite of all energy actions, and they're also a kind of part of GOLD. And so for those that aren't familiar with GOLD, this is kind of a standard right now, currently above. I mean, it's kind of the highest standard you can achieve in terms of specific category, and it involves 2 different pieces. So you have municipal operations, which requires you to achieve a certain amount of greenhouse gas emission reductions, 3.6%, and we have the community actions, which require you to complete these 6 actions. And there's some flexibility. We can swap some out, but 2 of these 6 actions are the residential and commercial energy efficiency actions. So this data can help with completing those actions. So the first one I'm going to start with, which I don't actually have data for, but I thought it was important to mention because it's very data related, is the energy tracking and management action. And so this action has 2 kind of different levels. So the first level is for 10 points to create a building portfolio and have 12 months of recent utility data. And then for the additional 10 points, requires that you do benchmarking and have an ongoing energy tracking and management system. And so we actually highly recommend that you as municipalities, I'm assuming, and also for schools, if any schools are on the line, track your energy with, we recommend Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which is a free tool from the US EPA to track your energy. And with this tool, you can look at your trends, and also you can do a free benchmarking report, which essentially compares your buildings, your properties to other buildings throughout the country, and it'll give you an Energy Star score, which is a 1 to 100 score, telling you how well your building is performing. And so we can't provide that data. You have to collect that data from your bills or your utility. But it's super important in terms of completing the Energy Star or Energy Gold level. And also, I should make a plug for this tool that we published last year, which I did a presentation about at the last summit, which is this tool to track greenhouse gas emissions from municipal operations. And we also have a guide that will help you understand it. And so for those municipalities that are going for gold, this is a critical part of doing that. So the next action is the energy efficiency for facilities action, which has, I guess, different levels, point levels. So 5 and 10 require that you complete local government energy audits. 5 is for one building, 10 is for all the buildings in your portfolio. 15 points requires that you have at least 10% energy savings. That should be energy savings in one building, and 20 points requires that you do local government energy audit on all buildings, plus at least 10% savings in one building. And 30 to 50 points are all based off of the amount of energy savings you're achieving overall in your building portfolio. And so if you want to learn more about how you can do some energy efficiency work, we highly recommend that you check out New Jersey's Clean Energy Program, and this is their website. Although actually right now the programs are changing, so you have to keep that in mind, and a lot of the programs are moving to the utilities, and so you'll have to keep posted. Most of the filings will be announced soon, and you'll be able to know what the next program is. Although there are some, you can still, if you can squeeze in energy efficiency work through the existing programs, you still can, but the time is running out. So as I talked about before, every municipality has different utilities, and some municipalities have multiple utilities, whether it's electric and natural gas, or multiple electric or multiple natural gas. So I would highly recommend that you get to know your utilities, and try to keep an eye on what their incentive programs will be, which will be very helpful in terms of completing the action. So coming to the data that can be helpful, we actually currently have some data posted on our website right now, but actually I'm going to quickly put this spreadsheet up. We actually are in the process of updating that data. So currently right now, we have data that shows all the energy efficiency work and audits that have been done by public entities over the course of the programs, the lifetime of the programs. So this can be very useful to be able to understand what work has been previously completed. So you can, if you're curious, if you want to complete the energy efficiency for municipal facilities action, you can quickly come to this data file and understand what work has been completed in your municipality. So we actually have a summary page that shows all the work that has been completed by year. But then we also have the main data page that shows, when the application was last updated. We use the application date, so it doesn't have the exact date when the work was completed, but it tells you the program, whether it's an audit or work, the applicant, the applicant type, which if you're a municipality, you can kind of look for municipal ones, or you can just look for your name. If you're a school, you can look by school, street address, municipality name that way. And then also the invoiced amount, and also the savings, the estimated savings. So you're going to want to look at the annual savings and for electric, and the annual savings for gas. And it's a quick way to understand how much savings or what work has been completed, and how much savings you could have gotten from that work. So it's very useful to be able to complete the action. We do ask that you find the documentation, so don't rely just strictly on this data if you're submitting for the action. But going back to the energy tracking action, it's very important to, I'm going to go back real quickly. It's important to have your previous energy usage data, not only to apply for some of those energy efficiency programs, incentive programs, but also be able to complete the action, because we require that you show the before energy usage, and then either the estimated savings or the achieved savings. So the two actions are very interrelated, and we highly recommend that you complete both in tandem. The next action I'm going to talk about is the commercial energy efficiency outreach action. So it's two different point levels. So for 10 points, you should send an outreach letter to the businesses, and do another additional outreach event or education effort. And then for 20 points, you have to achieve 2.5% of businesses signing a direct install application. And we have data that we call the participation. Well, actually, sorry, this is the sheet that is part of the action. So if you go into the action, you'll be able to find this, and it'll tell you how many businesses you need to get to do the direct install program to achieve that 2.5%. So that's one piece of data. The other data that we provide for municipalities that are completing this action is commercial industrial properties map that actually shows all the commercial industrial properties for every municipality in the state. And also, it also shows the urban enterprise zones and also the opportunity zones, which are shown here in orange and blue. And so actually there's enhanced incentives for businesses that fall within those areas. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing your outreach. So we provide that map on our data center website. And additionally, we also provide a tabular spreadsheet that shows the list of all the buildings, so you can, all the businesses, so you can actually use that for mailing, but also doing outreach efforts to reach out and try to get them to do energy efficiency work. So it's very useful to know what businesses you're dealing with. Next, we also have the lifetime commercial participation rate. And so currently, if you go to the action, you'll find data up till 2018, but we actually are in the process of uploading the most recent data up to March 2021. And what this data shows is the total number of commercial and industrial properties, and then also the amount of businesses that have participated in the direct install program. And it shows then the percentage, which is the participation rate. And then also we provide the number of businesses needed to get to 5%. And I forgot to mention that in order to get gold for these actions, you need to have at least 5% participation in the various programs. So this is a little handy dandy column to be able to understand how much work that needs to be done. Real quickly, we also provide a participation rate table for the residential outreach. And so the residential outreach action has 2 points point levels as well. The 10 points, which requires that municipality create a web page with program information and do additional outreach. And then for the 20-point level, we don't have the same 2.5% participation requirement. It's a letter to residents, and there's currently 2 approaches, but we actually, with things changing with the incentive programs through the state, these actions will need to be updated. So please do keep that in mind when reviewing these actions. And this is the participation rate for the residential side as well. So next, this is very exciting. I'm happy to announce that we've actually updated this utility energy usage data by municipality. So currently on our data center, we have data up till, I think, well, it's kind of a mix of complete data. So there's a number of utilities that hadn't provided data yet, but we actually have filled those, and we actually completed the 2020 data. So I think the current one is 2015 to 2019, but now we have complete data from 2015 to 2020. Although actually there are a few data consistency issues that we're working to resolve, and so hopefully we'll be able to resolve that soon. But for the most part, this data here will show you the total energy usage for every municipality in the state for the 6 years. So for instance, it will show you your residential electricity, your commercial electricity, your industrial electricity, and streetlights, as well as residential therms, commercial therms, and industrial therms. We actually do have a column for streetlights for natural gas, which was interesting to see, but we didn't include it because most municipalities don't have natural gas for streetlights. So this is very exciting because you can start to see trends. And actually, our friends over at the Department of Environmental Protection have taken that data, the earlier version of the data, and mapped it And so you can see which municipalities in New Jersey are using the most amount of electricity, for instance, or natural gas. And so you have this kind of gradient in different brackets, and it's pretty interesting. As you can see, mainly the bigger municipalities are using the most amount of energy, but they actually also did it per capita. And so you also notice that some of the areas have been blocked out because these areas don't use natural gas. And so that's why they've been blocked out. But it's interesting to see the variation per capita. And one of the things I've done is looked at per household, which is another measure to be able to kind of compare a little bit better. And so, we'll probably continue doing some mapping. Some other data that we have, it's currently on our website, nested within the utility data, is the other heating fuels emissions. So using census data, since we can't track the fuel, bottled fuel, tank fuel, or oil or wood use, the way that we can with utility data. We use census data, and this is kind of standard for being able to calculate or track greenhouse gas emissions. And we've converted that to various emission factors and calculated the total greenhouse gas emissions. And this relates primarily, really to especially these areas that don't use natural gas, because using this data, if you want to calculate greenhouse gas emissions, you can then combine or add this to kind of the calculations, and you can get a better sense of your greenhouse gas emissions. Another exciting data set that we are excited to share, although aren't on the website currently, we hope to share in the near future, is transportation data. And so we've been gathering vehicle miles traveled data from the three main or the three MPOs, the Metropolitan Planning Organizations in New Jersey. And with that vehicle miles traveled data, you can then break it down into different categories for vehicles, and then you can calculate greenhouse gas emissions. So you get the VMTs, and you can also get the number of gallons of fuel consumed based off of the passenger or the vehicle type of class. So this is very useful in terms of trying to calculate greenhouse gas emissions. Another exciting piece of data that we have available and hope to share soon is the EV data for the state. And so this data was provided by the Department of Community Affairs by way of primarily from the Department of Motor Vehicles, but by way of the Department of Community Affairs. I'm sorry, not Community Affairs, the Environmental Protection. And we have processed that to the municipal level. So unfortunately, the way that Motor Vehicles organizes the data is by zip code. And so we had to actually do some processing. But this data is pretty interesting to be able to look at the total vehicles, which we get from the census, but the number of EVs, and getting an estimate of the total vehicles in terms of how many are EVs. And just between 2015 and 2019, the change is astronomical, and I think that we're going to need to continue to grow significantly, but they're growing. And so this is an order based off of the percentage of EV ownership in 2019. And as you can see, actually, some municipalities, they're very small municipalities and wealthy municipalities, have actually close to 4% or over 4% EV ownership. So I think that they're the anomalies, but outliers, but it's growing for other municipalities as well. And so one of the cool things that I like to do is put it on a scatter plot. What this scatter plot shows is the percent EV ownership, which we were looking at. This is for 2019. And then the median, comparing it to the median household income. One of the things that oftentimes people talk about is that EV adoption has a lot to do with income. And so what this data and scatter plot essentially shows is that it sort of does. But there are some outliers. Actually, these like dots right here, high EV ownership, but also lower income could prove as a model for maybe lower income municipalities. We have here both Flemington, Asbury Park, and Wrightstown. So Wrightsboro, I believe. Wrightstown. And so that's the EV ownership. And then with all this data combined, this is probably the most exciting piece. We've kind of compiled the greenhouse gas emissions for every municipality in the state. And so I have to emphasize that this is preliminary because we want to just verify our methodology and make sure that everything is right. And methodologies vary from inventory to inventory, but we have a pretty good feeling that this is going to show a nice representation of the greenhouse gas emissions for every municipality, the way that they're typically tracked, and it comprises of the majority of greenhouse gas emissions. One piece that is in a protocol compliant greenhouse gas inventory is the waste, which we don't include, but the majority of greenhouse gas emissions, I would say probably 90% or above, are from the utility energy usage or the stationary energy usage and transportation. So we have a large portion of the data here. And so as you can see, I like scatter plots. And one of the things I was looking at here was comparing percent single family home in a municipality using census data to greenhouse gas emissions per household. And you can see that there's a trend. I wouldn't say that there is an immediate or an exact correlation, but as you can see, the lower the percent single family home, the lower the greenhouse gas emissions, and the higher the greenhouse gas emissions, the higher this percent single family home. And if you look at households analysis, this is one of the things that I've been kind of playing around with based off of this new data, is that actually, you do see most of the municipalities that are the highest dense, where there's a lot of multifamily housing and smaller units, and also where people walk more, they happen to be the least greenhouse gas emitting out of the state. I'm not going to show the most emitting. I'll let you kind of figure out when the time comes to see. So, but it's pretty interesting to start to look at and compare municipality to municipality in the same methodology, because oftentimes these greenhouse gas inventories have widely different methodologies, and so it's pretty interesting. Another thing that we can do is kind of look at typical energy greenhouse gas emission profiles. So this is kind of a preliminary profile for a municipality in the state. And so, as you can see, around 33% is from transportation, 27 is from residential, 27 actually is the same amount, which is interesting, is from commercial, and then 13 is from industrial. And not every municipality is going to have a large industrial. These are things that we're kind of working on, but this is kind of typical based off of averages from our data so far. So how are we on time? So I think we're making pretty good time. I also real briefly wanted to talk about this other tool, the heat island map, and actually I can click on that here. So all that has to do with energy, but and climate mitigation primarily, but we also do provide some tools for adaptation, which is kind of adapting to the effects of climate change. And this was actually one of my earlier projects here at Sustainable Jersey, where we took the thermal infrared imagery and actually created heat island maps of New Jersey. And this can be used to complete a heat island assessment. And as you can see, places like Newark, New Jersey have significant heat island issues. Also, if you go up to Patterson, and if the further you go out into the highlands, you have almost a 30% or 30-degree difference in terms of temperature. So this is a very useful tool to be able to, and it's critical to completing the heat island assessment action. One other tool, which let's see, now it's not letting me do this, but is the water NJ water map. And so it's a bit of a messy map. This is something I kind of put together for fun, but it can help with creating the brand new gold star in water. And so as you scroll into this water map, and actually I'm jumping around, I'm sorry. You can actually start to get more layers about water in New Jersey, and it might take a minute to load. But you have your watersheds, your sewer territories, and all sorts of other information, and you can take a look at what information is there. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think that we're pretty good on time. I think that we're supposed to wrap around 12:45, so that leaves about a little bit less than 10 minutes for questions. So if anybody has some questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Oh, and I also have here. Let me put up my slides. Yeah. I wanted to just thank our sponsors. Sorry, my PowerPoint is. So yeah, I just wanted to thank our sponsors, and also, let's see, I can't. Excuse me, give me a minute. Yeah, so I just want to thank our sponsor. Also let you know that there are more summit events remaining throughout this week. So you can take a look on our website, and you can, the recordings again are going to be published on May 28th. And yeah, I guess I'll open it up for questions.
Zenon, we have several questions in the chat. I don't know if you're able to view that.
Yeah, I do see it. Yeah, sorry, I haven't taken a look yet. So from Carolina Ramos asks, do any of the energy maps have urban enterprise zone layers? So the commercial and industrial properties map does have urban enterprise zone layer. So yeah, I don't know if I have the map open, but I mean, let's see, I'll just go real quickly to the slide. So yeah, as you can see here, it's a layer on top of the parcel data. So I hope that answers that question. Kathleen also asks, do you expect that the criteria for energy gold need some one-time adjustments for pandemic effects? Okay, so yeah, I anticipated this. So yeah, I think that I would, if you're going for gold and you're tracking, let's see, trying to find a good slide. And you're tracking your municipal operations data, for instance, I think that I would try to avoid 2020 if you're going to use that as a baseline or a comparison year, just because things were so weird. Unless you know for sure that your municipal operations are going to be kind of or the same, or they were the same, I would try to avoid that. In terms of the community standard, part of gold is we do have it written in that the municipality is responsible for a 1% reduction in community emissions. As you can see, we're still in the process of kind of developing that data, and we're not quite sure exactly how we're going to determine it. I mean, I think that we'll probably have to do some weather normalization, which is kind of a way to kind of compare multiple years to each other. But yeah, I think that we'll probably try to avoid 2020 as well for that. Next, we have John Gordon. Would it be possible to make an overlaying layer of energy burden on heat island maps. So actually, I think that the heat island map, which I'm not quite sure, I can't remember, might have actually some social vulnerability information as well. So it also has tree layers as well, which takes a while to load. But I think that that's one layer. I know that the DEP does have this overburdened communities data, and that's something that we can look into as well to kind of overlay. And there's other measures for distress as well. Let's see, any other questions? So I guess with that, I mean, I guess we can wrap if there's no other questions. I think we're pretty good on time. I think maybe a little bit early, but that's fine.
Zenon, we actually do have a couple more questions trickling in.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm looking at the chat, or where do you see the questions? I only see 3.
General chat as opposed to the Q&A.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I'm not seeing it. Do you mind reading it off for me?
Sure. So there's a question about whether we expect, or sorry, if we calculate the GHG data ourselves, or if that's provided.
Well, so we are looking to calculate the greenhouse gas emissions data. If that person is referring to the community side, on the I guess municipal operations side, we have this tool that will help you do that. So you need to track your energy on the municipal operations, and then you plug in that data into this tool, and it will calculate for you. What we're hoping to do is actually do all the greenhouse gas emissions on the community scale for every municipality internally. So the municipality shouldn't need to do that themselves. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
And there was also kind of a clarifying question about the baseline year for energy gold and how that's determined.
So the baseline year is whatever a year your municipality chooses to pick. And so if you have your data all assembled in 2019 or 2018, that could be your baseline year. It really all depends on when you have all the data available. And then the comparison year, the way the gold works is 3 years, typically 3 years after the baseline year. And so you'll have to have all that same kind of data updated to be able to compare the two. And one of the things that we built into that tool is that, or in the instructions, is a way to weather normalize that data, so that way that weather doesn't affect energy usage.
Okay, great. And then Kathleen has had her hand raised. So Kathleen, I'm going to turn on your mic. Do you still have the question that you were wondering about before?
This is Peter Freed, and I think I'm coming in on Kathleen's registration. So the questions have been from me.
Okay.
Hi, Peter.
I apologize. I work with Kathleen, so I hope she will stand behind me on the questions I ask. No, the only additional question I have is, are you going to do community footprints for back years as well, so that trends will be immediately apparent, or are you going to only do them for new years, current and upcoming?
So I'm assuming you mean at the community level. Yeah, so we are looking to have a community carbon footprint for every municipality in the state for 2015. And then essentially we're going to try to have community carbon footprints moving forward. So 2015 is the furthest back that we're going to go. We don't have data further back than that. And
how time late do you think you'll be? I mean, if someone was interested in 2019, do you think you already have all the data necessary for you to calculate that, or
yeah, we're looking to process it for 2019 soon. I think that we have pretty much all the data assembled for 2019 as well. So that, I think those are the 2 years we're looking to release, 2015 and 2019. Although I guess, Peter, not everybody knows that you're in Madison. So there's one exception that municipal utility authorities are not included in our data because we don't have that data. But you would be happy to work with those towns to make that happen.
Right. We can get you those data from at least one utility. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, yeah.
Okay.
I finally found the chat, so I don't know if there, Hogan, you've been monitoring it a little bit better, but was there any other questions that you had?
Just a quick question on whether we could use county tipping tickets for solid waste accounting for the community GHG.
Well, I mean, that's a possibility. I think that the way that if we were to pursue that, we would probably reach out to the improvement authorities, which typically manage the waste, and they actually provide. I think they actually get the data from the tipping tickets, but they actually have that data. It's a little bit more involved because there's more counties than utilities in terms of our data, and a little out of what our focus is. We've been focusing primarily on energy. So maybe in the future, that's something that Sustainable Jersey might want to pursue. Yeah.
All right, great. That is all the questions that we have.
Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone. If you have any further questions or comments or want to link up, my email is here. And so feel free to reach out.